Well, that kinda sucked. I mean, like, the overall decision does make sense. Take out someone who, is more of a threat to win the game and then deal with the wild card who is shooting himself in the foot over and over again. But, yeah, because just like, he was prepared to go. He was 100% willing to walk out of there. Like, I even thought for a tiny bit there at Tribal Council that Donovan was going to lay down his torch, but they probably wouldn't have. Actually, no. They would have let him do that. They can't stop you from quitting the game, but they can expel you from the jury, right? And this would not have been as noble as what Janu did. No way. So, yeah. And other than that, it was pretty much just a redo of last week, with a tiny little bit of variances in there. Although, again, the challenges are nice. And, like, I was totally expecting the guys to screw up on their station and that Donovan and Laurel were going to win, but nah. They ended up pulling it out, and they all got to the last round, which I was shocked by. I thought for sure just simply introducing one extra would screw them up, but I guess I underestimate the power of two independent people running the clock. Yeah. And then that immunity challenge, I'll bring that up real fast. Did they make the right call by giving it to Lowell? Yeah, I'd say that they did because while it's not 100% on our minds that you need to call Jeff over to examine the puzzle, you have to remember that this isn't like a Big Brother where they have cameras from every angle and the host is very much removed from the equation. Here, yeah, you've got cameras, but it's people filming it. I highly doubt that they can just stop recording, review the footage, and then compare notes. I mean, like, that's what I just said is pretty much what happens on Major League Sports, but I don't know if Survivor has, like that big level of equipment, because, well, actually, how else do they get the aerial shots? But whatever. They made the right decision. It's a different dynamic for how Survivor works versus how Big Brother works. I don't know how Amazing Race would handle this because I've only seen the first two seasons, and that was years ago. Right. Heck, now that I think about it, it's probably been 8 years at least since I last saw the first season, maybe 10. I don't remember when I last saw it, but anyway. 9 actually, yeah. Then the dynamic of Laurel and Donovan once again contemplating making a big move, and then Laurel deciding not to. I'm sure that the sportsmanship was on her mind, but she was going to make this decision regardless, I think. Especially since Donovan shoots himself in the foot so much, and apparently, there was a lot more sway that Dominic and Wendell had on Sebastian, even though we haven't seen that, because Kellen alluded to that in her exit interviews, that even though she and Sebastian were pretty close out there, she was able to read him via facial expressions along with Angela and realize, I'm done, I'm screwed here. She got, the glimmer of hope, but I knew the moment that they said 3-2 that Kellen would vote for Donovan, and then I'm like, well, then does she have the 2 votes or does she have the 3 votes? Because she has the 3 votes, it's just a tie, and that's exactly what happened. And the moment I saw that she had more than 1 vote, I figured that most likely she was gone. But I don't really know if that revote was strictly in there, because there was a moment where Angela turned and looked at Wendell and he just threw his arms up. He's like, and the way he walked up to the voting urn, I could tell that there was a tad bit of like hesitance there, although that might have just been the sadness of him voting out Kellen, who I get the feeling that he does like. Yeah. Could be. Uh-huh. So, there might be a couple of other things to discuss. Oh yeah, Sebastian getting the vote steal again. Why did you put the same one in there twice? Unless you were planning to do something different with Stevens, but who knows? There was still urns, on Ghost Island, but there's not enough time to use it again because this was day 35. So there's still 3 people that they need to get rid of on each day, and they're going to run a challenge during each of those days. Like, what? Are you going to have someone win immunity, send someone to Ghost Island, and have them come back before Tribal? That's too much to cram in, if you ask me. And what, are you going to have something special happen on day 38 instead? On Ghost Island, to accommodate the final 4 fire-making twists, which I completely forgot about, and I'm not looking forward to. Here's to hoping that that doesn't throw off the natural rhythm of the season again, and that they ditch this twist, but of course everyone knows what's going to happen with this twist except me. Yeah. That's about all I can think of at this point. So now, time to talk about the 6 remaining people in this game. Angela, she's got a 0% chance of winning this game. Like, even when she was winning challenges, she didn't get that much except for on pats on the back. Like, there's no way that she can win. It's impossible. Yeah. Sebastian, this was, I think, the first confessional we've had from him in a while, and yeah, he does have the extra vote, but since Dom and Wendell have more of a sway of him, as Kellen has told us, I don't really see too much there. It's possible, okay, because, well, actually, okay, I'm not going to tell you what I just realized because it would take too long to explain, and I'd have to get into spoilers for another season of reality TV, which I don't want to do. Okay. So, I don't really see much with him, and it would make sense why we haven't thought about him that much this whole season, yeah. Donovan, technically, he should have no shot at it at this point, but I don't know. The last 2 times I thought this way about people on Survivor, it's worked against me. Now, granted, that's when I was watching the South African version of this show, where I get to the end of Season 4 and Season 6 and think that the eventual winner of that season has no chance, when in reality it's completely the opposite. Well, the runner-up has no chance, really, but just that much? Yeah, and like, what can he say that he's done unless he's responsible for taking out Dom and Wendell? But even then, the only way he can take out Dom and Wendell is if Laurel helps him. Okay, that's not technically true, but it might as well be at this point. Yeah. Then, Laurel. I'd say she's got the biggest chance out of everyone to get to the final 3, unless I'm totally mistaking Angela's chances, but just... Again, how can she give a pitch unless she takes out the big guys? And even then, she's going to need Donovan and one of the other people to help her. Yeah. That's not to say that it isn't impossible for one of the guys to lose if it's just one of them at the end there, but it seems pretty obvious that they're going to try and take each other at this point. I know Wendell has said a little bit about that, but that's just what it seems like. Now, moving on to Wendell. Well, it seems like I've been proven wrong about him and that he hasn't really shot himself in the foot yet, but that's just because of Laurel constantly being there, so they've got a stronger bond than I think. And then Dominic, I guess assuming that he can beat Wendell, even though I think in terms of bad blood, Wendell has easily done less than Dominic. And then Dominic, well, it's looking fairly good for him, but it could easily crumble. There's free boots that still need to happen here, even though granted one of them is going to be unfortunately different, even though the immunity should still be the same. So he's got one heck of a story if he makes it, and if Wendell isn't there and Lore hasn't done anything, I don't really see how he can lose. If it's him versus Wendell, well, as I said, he's got more bad blood, but at the same time, it's clearly that he's been in charge, so that he's got that going for him. Dominic versus Wendell, who wins? I'd probably vote for Dominic, at least based on what I have seen on the show and not having interacted with him, but I would think on a critique basis, Wendell would win, yeah. So it's interesting, but if one of the guys doesn't pull this out, this season's going to be a bit of a letdown, and even then, even if Dominic does pull it out, I don't think that this season is going to have too much on the rewatch, because this was a good idea, bringing back the fixed curses, and it negates the problem of having too many advantages, because you would expect there to be a lot of advantages, but in the end, it won't totally have played out that well, thanks to, number one, the edit, and then the fact that, just a lot of people do the, follow around one person and then never turn on them. And I'm not trying to say that that's a bad thing, as I have said. What happened in Redemption Island, South Pacific, in one world shows that those people were very influential. They could have been voted out at really any time there, even though actually all three of those people did win a respectable amount of immunities, let me tell you. So, but, you know, yeah. So, I'm hoping for a good result, but in hindsight, I don't know how many big strengths this season has. Though at the same time, one could argue that because it doesn't have an overwhelming bad bit, that maybe that'll help, yeah. I bet I'm gonna have a really tough time ranking this one. We'll see.